Hi, so this is just a quick overview of my performance live set as it is right now. What I've kind of got going on is I've just set it up, so I've got two decks going, so essentially kind of DJing my compositions. How I've put forward in my proposal that I want to perform this piece is essentially medleys, like a medley of a few compositions that I've composed, just to introduce a bit of variety instead of having one long composition that goes for 7 minutes. So at the moment I've input all my files down here on my deck, so I'll be DJing between one to the other, and leaving enough room for overlay, so when one track's fading out the other one is beginning. So that's where I stand at the moment. Where I'm looking to go from here is these are two MIDI tracks that I've just created. One of them is my MPC, and then on this modular set I'm creating a synthesizer to perform over top of the last song just here. So that's where I'm at the moment, and I'll keep you updated as how I go. So this is just a quick update of where I'm at so far. So I've got my live set up same as before, so I've got my two decks with the tracks lined up and the tempos, and I've added a lot of MIDI tracks, of which I'll click between. This is my MPC, which is over here, which I've just set up, and I've also got some samples that I'm using here from Serato sampler, and I've got the lower version of that too. And I just wanted to add with the Serato sample section, I did use Serato for the samples and getting the samples, but I ended up exporting them and putting them on my MPC. Serato sampler itself is pretty finicky and picky when it comes to how you can trigger it. You have to use specific MIDI notes, which was kind of interfering with the way that I was swapping with other instruments, so I thought it would just be less of a hassle and more fluent for the performance if I just put them on the MPC. What I really want to do is get a keyboard here, but also like a macro controller, just so I can control mainly the tempo of the performance, just by twisting it with a knob instead of having to drag it with my finger. I feel that that would really help. But we'll just have to wait and see. So this is where I'm up to now with my performance file. I've fully fleshed it out and I'm pretty happy with where it's gone. So just like last time, I've still got my two decks. They are being triggered by the scene launcher over here. So I've got all my scenes, and when I trigger a scene, triggering that file, and then I'm kind of just blending between all the pieces. So that's been working really well for me. I've also got my MPC up and running. So as you can see here, I've got my pads and I've got all my samples loaded up, which correlate to these pads here. So this will be the kick, this is a hi-hat, this is another hi-hat, and then I've got my vocal samples for the last piece here. So this is the first synth. So this is the synth that I used during the second song, which is titled Masses. So that one there, I've got CV coming from Ableton, so MIDI data, which is running through a quantizer to make sure I can only play the right notes. Running that through a slew limiter, which is pretty much just portamento, and that's going into braids just here, which has just got your standard VCA sort of set up with a few LFOs modulating a few parameters just to get a bit of movement. And then it's also running through clouds, which is also being modulated by a few LFOs as well. That's then just running through a saturation knob and then straight out. And this is my last synthesizer. That sounds like this. So this here is my master tempo. If I move this around, that'll also be editing the tempo in Ableton. And then over here, we've got the blend, density, position, and size for clouds, which is on deck 1. I've got an on-off for clouds, which is pretty important. So if I'm pressing this, that's turning clouds on and off in Ableton, which is quite handy. This is the blend here, which I've got set to dry wet. This is my density. This is the position. And then I've got the size here too. Lastly, down here, I've got my 3 arms. So hitting these will arm the actual MIDI tracks for the keyboard. So I'm selecting which synth I want to use. So this arms the first one, which is the Masses synth. This here both arms and turns on the 8899 synth. So as you can see, there's constantly signal coming from that synth. And the reason that is, if I open it up, is because clouds is after the amplifier. Which means that there's constantly space coming out of clouds because of the blend on the dry wet. So to make sure that's not in the background, when I click it turns on the track and arms it at the same time. So if I click it again, it'll turn it off. So these two, this one here also arms the last synth. So I can swap between these two and arm these two synths as much as I like. But if I want to use this one here, I've got to arm it and turn it off before I select another one. Otherwise, it'll enter a state where it's inverted like that, which is not what I want. I've been working on a few videos which I will overlay now, that I will overlay over parts of the song. So especially at the start, there's a granularized bit at the start of Faces, which sounds like this. That goes for quite a while, so I'll be using that. The other way that I'm looking at recording is I'll be using one video phone, and I might even move it around during the set, which I think could be pretty cool. Otherwise, the other idea I have is like this. So I wrote in my proposal that I wanted to do something with a fisheye lens, which I thought could be pretty sweet, and this actually went on sale at work the day after I wrote that, and I thought, oh nice. So it looks like this. So it's a little clips onto either your phone or maybe the webcam. So let's give it a go. This is my first time trying this. I like that little green spill as well, that's actually quite nice. So having something like this here I think could be really cool, because it kind of gives a bit of depth, gives it a bit more aesthetic quality, which I think is pretty cool, and it gives me a wider view. So how perfect is that? So I could possibly, let's give this a test, have my laptop set up like this and be using, let's move these out of the way, using the MPC. I can move my scene launcher so it's in view, and then I've got the keyboard here, so that's pretty cool. So that's the main kind of idea that I've got for this. This is my video. This is what I'm going to be going ahead with next week. Visuals are the main thing that I'm going to be working on in the next week, and just refining the performance. So yeah, thank you. Really excited to do this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I think the end result's going to be pretty cool too. Thank you for your time.